Rudyard Kipling has rightly said, if history were taught in the form of stories, then it would be never forgotten. And that is what is the power of storytelling, isn't it? There is no greater power on this earth than story itself. So, today again, I, Sapna Mahadevan, am here to welcome all of you to this live TV episode where we talk about the story writing process and break down a classic story only for my special audience here. And I'm going to give you all the essentials and the fun framing part of how you can write an enthralling and an intriguing story. Yes. So do come into this journey with me here on a Saturday special, which is a breakdown of the classic. Yes. And the story that we have cherry picked for today is also really a special one. You're going to get to know about it in a little bit while from now. But let me first introduce you to today's episode. Here it is, Fiction Story Writing Masterclass, Unleash the Writer in You. Yes, and that's what exactly we are going to do today. We are going to take inspiration from a very renowned author and try and understand how even we can be writing stories just like this one all by ourselves. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? So let's get started with our episode here. I have a lot of hello messages here in the chat box. Feels so special to welcome all of you once again today. Hi there, Faulty Devil, Prachi, Pranch. Thanks a lot for joining in. Some familiar names, some new ones, but yes, let me again tell you, this is a Saturday special episode, and other than this, Mondays through Fridays, we are actually taking up stand up comedy vertical. But only for today, we have the story writing process. Yes. So let's get started with our episode for today. Let me show you the coming up segment. And here, as you can see on the screen, really plethora of activities and segments that we have planned specially for our viewers and curated with a mindset of giving you a lot of learnings, both in a creative and in a fun way, right? So let me take you through all of the coming up segments. First, we will have the introduction of the classic book. Then we will be delving deeper into the title and the author. Of course, after that comes the essentials. So I will be giving you some essential pointers which you need to focus on if you are going to write a similar story. Yes. So these are the essentials. And then along the way, we will be having some creative and fun segments like Think Like a Pro, where you are required to put on your thinking cap and give me some answers to the questions that I pose. There is quiz time as well. And of course, we will also delve deeper into the plot building pointers, which means once you have established the essentials for writing a classic story, next what comes is how you can make that story interesting for your audience, isn't it? So all the tips and tricks how you can make it engrossing and interesting for the audience comes next in the plot building pointers. And towards the end of our episode, we also have the story in a nutshell, where I will recite the story out to you. Will generally give you a synopsis of the story, of course, and there are also going to be icebreaker questions and synonymous words all along the way. Yes, so do stay tuned in here with me. We have a lot of activities planned, and we are going to start with the first icebreaker question of the day. And this one says, never have I ever caught a butterfly. Okay, so have you done this ever? Butterflies are really beautiful creatures, aren't they? So very colorful, different with different designs, and I have many in my backyard. We also have a nearby community garden where some folks from the community, they have this butterfly garden made out. And it seems there are a variety of plants which attract these butterflies. So if you plant those uh, saplings in that particular area, then it is sure to attract some of these wonderful creatures. Yes, so it is really a wonderful idea that has been brought out in the community, and we are really enjoying it. So yes, have seen all types of colorful with different designs and patterns on them, but have never caught them though. Yes. So any one of you, if you have done that, then do let me know in the chat box. So this is just a yes and a no kind of an answer that I am expecting here, either in affirmative or in negative. Have you ever caught a butterfly? That's the first icebreaker question for the day. And a couple of responses that I get here in the chat box, and most of them are no. So none of you catching a butterfly here, right? Yes. Um, Rohit says I have. Okay. I hope you left it out after that, after just holding it for a while, maybe. Yes. So that is the response that I get here. Most of the answers are no. So, yes, with that, let us move ahead to the next segment. And here is the segment that we are all waiting for. What's the book, right? So, let me reveal the name of the book. And here it comes. The name of the book is Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. And I know that's a famous story from a renowned author. We all know about Alice's Adventures. Yes. So do stay tuned in here. We are going to learn a lot about this book here. And let us move further ahead and come to know about the title. So, what it means, the title suggests that there is only one protagonist in this story, of course, the name of whom is Alice. And there are many other characters which are really going to enthrall you. But all of these are anthropomorphic characters. That means that these are animal characters, which, or, they have the animal form, but human traits and human behavior. So they have feelings, they know how to express their feelings, and they talk. Yes, so these are anthropomorphic creatures. And let's move ahead. To understand how the story goes further, right? For now, we know that the title is Alice in Wonderland, and it is about this protagonist's adventures that we are going to talk. Yes, so that was the title and the meaning. And now let's move ahead to the next segment. Again, an icebreaker question coming your way, and it says, never have I ever been in a traffic jam. Okay, so for me, clearly the answer is I am always in a traffic jam. I am in a city in India where traffic jams are really normal. And so, yes, definitely been in one. What about you? Do let me know in the chat box here. Anytime have you been in a jam where vehicles are moving in snail space? Do let me know in the chat box, yes or no. And we have Ari say yes. Okay. Jennifer also says yes. Right. Adwait says not in many. Okay. So thanks again for all of those answers there. And those are the answers that I get here. There's a question mark as well. So it is an icebreaker question where you have to say yes or no if you have been in a traffic jam or not, right? Hope that's clear enough. And let's move ahead to the next segment. This is all about the author. So let me tell you, Lewis Carroll is the author's name, a renowned author whose book Alice Adventures in Wonderland got really famous. Um, there's another handle, or there's another person joining me on the live just now, Asil Ali Arb. Hi there. And so let me tell you more about the author. Charles Dodson, better known by his pen name Lewis Carroll, was an English author, poet, and also a mathematician. His most notable works are Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and also its sequel, Through the Looking Glass. And he was noted for his facility with wordplay, logic, and fantasy. So this book is all about that. There is, of course, a lot of fantasy elements here totally imaginative world building, right? And that's why this book yeah, really enthralls the little children who read it. Yes, because children, as we know them, are imaginative at best, and this book as well has some very imaginative scenes, and that too written to perfection, where you can actually visualize what's happening, right? So when I come to the part where I shared with you the story in a nutshell, you're going to see it for yourself and evidence it that it is a story imaginative at best, right? And totally from the author's imagination. Yes, so let's move ahead. We know about the author, we know about the title, and the book that we have chosen, of course. So the next segment that we have here is what's the genre. So whatever I told you about this book till now, can you guess and let me know in 60 seconds flat? 60 seconds is too much time, so maybe as quick as you can you let me know in the chat box what do you think is the genre in which we can be categorizing Alice's Adventures in Wonderland? Yes, quickly in the chat box, name the genre, and here it is. Can you guess the genre in 60 seconds? Okay, so waiting for your answers there. Children's book is the answer that Jemima gives me. Okay, I can give that to you. Children's book, okay, or maybe children's literature. And when it is imagination, then what category do we put that into? Think about this one. We have done a lot of story writing episodes, and I'm sure that you are aware of this. And fable is the one answer that I get here. So let me give that answer out to you. It's children's literature or fantasy, because it has a lot of fantastical elements, right? Everything that stems up from the author's imagination. Yes, so that's the genre that we can be categorizing Alice's Adventures in Wonderland into. And now we come to establishing the essentials. Yes, so any one of you, if you want to write a story similar to this one, then what are the essentials that you're going to keep in mind, right? So let me give you a gist of all of the essentials. Here it is. We have the protagonist, then the setting. Setting will always mean the when and the where, which means when did the story take place, what's the timeline, and where did it take place, right? So we are going to give our audiences a clear understanding, a clear description of the when and the where before we even start the story. Yes, so maybe it would be our introductory para, and then we also talk about the conflict. So before you start writing a story, you need to be very sure about who your protagonists are, what is the setting of your story, and what could be the problem statement, right? Every story that you can think of will definitely have all of these three elements. Yes, so it is these three elements that we really want to focus on and take time on to think about it. And once you have established these essentials, then comes the task of making the story interesting, right? So we will move on to that part later. For now, let us delve deeper into all of these essentials, and I'm going to give you more understanding of you know this book. In this particular book, what are these particular elements, right? So here is the first one, the protagonist. So as we know, we have choose the classic book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So the protagonist here is only one, which is central to the story, and that is Alice. Now, she lived in a village near the lake. Alice believes that the world is orderly and stable, and she has an insatiable curiosity about her surroundings, right? So she uh, really is so very eager to know about all the things happening around her. And Wonderland challenges and frustrates her perceptions of the world. So, too many anthropomorphic characters and situations that she comes through in this story, which really makes her wonder about all that is happening to her. Yes, so that was about the protagonist Alice. And now the second element that we have here is the setting, right? So just like any other Carroll's fables, this story has a fableish setting with many elements of fantasy in it. And the story is based in a wonderland where strange things happened to Alice with all types of creatures living there. Yes. So in this story, Alice's perception of a stable world becomes a myth when all those strange and creepy things happen to her, right? So we are going to come to know of all of these strange things through our story when we come to that. And third essential element would be the problem statement. So the story has numerous conflicts. Each creature encountered by Alice gave her a new experience and a different challenge, right? So these were the three elements that we have in our essentials, and we also spoke about how they are connected with this particular story. And now let's move ahead to the next segment, which is a synonymous word, aiming to build up your vocabulary. So the word perception, it has synonyms: discernment, insight, and sagacity. So you might want to write down and jot down all of these words, try using them wherever possible, and also you can Google out the meanings, and use it in sentences wherever apt, right? So this was the first synonymous word, and now let me move ahead to another icebreaker question. There it is. Never have I ever have had stale food. Okay, so food that has gone old, maybe you have, it's not really fresh. So if, anytime if you have had stale food maybe by mistake, do let me know in the chat box what are your answers. For me, it's definitely going to be no, because never happened with me ever. And I always believe in having fresh food, right? So no is the answer that I see maximum in my chat box here. And thanks again for being a participative audience, for taking time out to join this live episode, right? Now let us move ahead to another fun segment. This is Think Like a Pro. Quick answers in the chat box. You need to guess these famous dishes from around the world, right? And these are really popular, so I'm sure that you're all going to give me correct answers. Now here is the first picture that you can see, and that seems to be so very tempting, isn't it? So can you let me know in the chat box what's that dish called? There's a chopstick that I can see, so you can imagine or you can understand the place that it comes from. Yes, and try and guess the name of the dish in the chat box. Okay, so Aditya gives me the first response and he says it's ramen. That's correct. It is. And here it is. Great. Thanks a lot for that. The second picture coming up here, there it is. Okay, this is quite easy. We all love it, isn't it? Anytime you don't know what to order, then this is our comfort food that we go for, isn't it? So, what's this? Mac and cheese. That is correct. Purnima gives me the correct answer. That's right. It is mac and cheese, of course. And moving ahead to the next one. There it is. Okay. A dumpling of some sort with stuffings and a really chili kind of a sauce, maybe. So, what's that? In the chat box, who here is drooling with all of these pictures? Yes? Any answers to this question? Can't see any answers come up by now. Okay, let me reveal that one for you. This, of course, momos. Okay, lovely. Now, moving ahead to the next picture that we have for today. Here it is. And again, a popular dish. Lavanya gives me the correct answer. That is right. It is, of course, spring rolls. Yes. And now we come to the last one, the last picture for the day. And here you go. Yes. So what's that? No answers coming up here. Don't know is one response that I get here. So Rohit says egg roll. I think that was for the previous one, but that was spring rolls. And this one is nugget. Nuggets in plural. Yes. So these were the questions or the pictures that we had related to food for today. And let's move ahead to the next segment. And this next segment is all about plotting the plot. Yes, so Rohit, that was nuggets. And thanks for attempting the answers. So now that we know what the essentials are, let's now understand what are the interesting elements that you can add on to your story to try to keep your audience glued on to the story and to the pages as well. Yes. So first we have the conflict, the resolution, and the moral. Right. So every fable, every fantasy story that you pick maybe will have a moral or an insight that it gives to the readers. Yes. So that's really an important part of a fable. The author is trying to give us some life lessons. So yes, these will be the three elements that will make your story more and more interesting. So let's look at in this story, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, how these particular three things that we are seeing on the screen, how are these things mentioned in this particular story, right? So here is the first plotting the plot element, which is the conflict. So let me tell you, conflict is happening every time Alice meets a new character and is being confronted with its strange rules and behavior. So the main conflict occurs in the last chapter during the trial when Alice is called to give evidence. She calls the creatures by their name, nothing but a pack of cards, and they all come flying down on her in rage. And the main conflict occurs during the dinner party when strange things starts to happen and all of the guests are metamorphosing into other beings, right? So they are transforming. Yes. Now after that, the resolution comes when poor frustrated Alice seizes the tablecloth and crashes everything onto the floor. She is so very frustrated. She then picks up the Red Queen and starts shaking her, and this makes her realize that she was actually in a dream, right? And she wakes up, and that's the resolution of this conflict. She finds that she is no longer in this wonderland and realizes that it was just a dream. And she then tells this particular dream to her sister and understands that Alice is actually growing up, right? So that's the resolution for the story. And finally, the moral is the growth and understanding can be developed from anywhere. To search for an apt source is absurd, and motivation can be found everywhere. That is the moral that the story gives us. So, with those plotting the plot elements, let's move ahead further to the synonymous word, which is metamorphosing. And the meaning would be convert, transform, or also transmute. Yes. Now, with that, we come to our next segment, which is here it is. We are already to our story in a we are already here to the story in a nutshell. I know you're all waiting for the story to play out, so let's get started with theme number one, which is growing up. Yes, and here is theme number one. So the story starts with Alice sitting on a riverbank on a warm summer day. Drowsily she is reading over her sister's shoulder when she catches a sight of a white rabbit in a waistcoat running by her. Now, the rabbit is scurrying past her, and just imagine how a white rabbit would look in a waistcoat. Yes, so the story is all about imagination. The white rabbit pulls out a pocket watch, exclaims that he is late, and pops down into a rabbit hole. Now, Alice follows the white rabbit down the hole and comes upon a great hallway which is lined with doors. And she finds a small door that she opens using a key she discovers on a nearby table. Yes. Now, what happens next is really interesting because through the door, she sees a beautiful garden, and Alice begins to cry when she realizes that she cannot actually fit into that door. She cannot get through the door, right? So she finds a bottle which is, labeled "Drink Me," and without even thinking twice, she downs the contents of that, liquid, and that was actually a magic potion. And when she drinks that, she shrinks down to the right size to enter the door, but again cannot enter since she has left the key on the table. And because now she has, her size is now small, she can't actually reach the table for the key. Now, Alice discovers again a cake which was kept nearby, and that was marked "Eat Me." And again, when she ate that cake, it causes her to grow up to an inordinately large height. Still unable to enter the garden, Alice begins to cry, and she is really frustrated because she wants to see how that splendid garden looks and she wants to experience that for herself. Now, when she starts crying, that there is again an interesting scene that plays up, and the second chapter is also named the Pool of Tears. So when she starts crying, since she has an inordinately large form, these giant tears they form a pool at her feet, and as she cries, Alice shrinks and falls into the pool of tears. Yes. Now, what we see next happening is that the pool of tears becomes a sea, and as she treads water, she meets a mouse. Now, the mouse accompanies Alice to shore, where a number of animals stand gathered on the bank. After a caucus race, Alice scares the animal away with tales of her cat and finds herself alone again. Then she meets the white rabbit again, who mistakes her for the servant and sends her off to fetch some things. While in the white rabbit's house, Alice drinks an unmarked bottle of liquid and grows to the size of the room. Now, just imagine how many things are happening here, and all of these are different conflicts, different experiences, yes, problem statements in itself. Now, the white rabbit returns to his house fuming at the new giant Alice, but she swats him and his servants away with her giant hand. The animals outside try to get her out of the house by throwing rocks at her, which inexplicably transform into cakes when they land into the house. Alice eats one of the cakes, which causes her again to shrink to a small size. She wanders off into the forest where she meets a caterpillar sitting on a mushroom and smoking a hookah. Now, these are so very imaginative, isn't it? And the vivid description that we have in the book is really par excellence, right? So, what happens next is the Duchess behaves rudely to Alice and then departs to prepare for a croquet game with the Queen. And as she leaves, the Duchess hands Alice the baby, which Alice discovers is a pig. So, another character getting added on to our story. And Alice lets the pig go and re enters the forest where she meets the Cheshire Cat. And the Cheshire Cat explains to Alice that everyone in Wonderland is kind of like crazy, and also gives directions to the March Hare's house and fades away to nothing but a floating grin. So you can see how many different elements we have here playing up. Different anthropomorphic characters even come up in each of those scenes, right? So before we move further, let's look at one of the synonymic words, which is dismay, right? So dismay would have synonyms shock, disquiet, and upset. So that's what Alice was all throughout the book. She was always in shock and in dismay. Yes. Now let's see how the story furthers. Now, Alice travels to the March Hare's house to find the March Hare, the Mad Hatter, and the Dormouse having tea together. And treated rudely by all of these three, Alice stands by the tea party uninvited, and she learns that they have all wronged time and are therefore trapped in perpetual tea time. So they are always there in that tea time. Time is not moving further ahead for them. After a final discourtesy, Alice leaves and journeys through the forest. She finds a tree with a door in its side and travels through it to find herself back into the great hall. She takes the key and uses the mushroom to shrink down and enter the garden. So finally, she is got entry to the garden, and after saving several gardeners from the temper of the Queen of Hearts, Alice joins the Queen in a strange game of croquet. And the croquet ground is hilly. The balls are live flamingos and hedgehogs, and the Queen tears about frantically calling for the other players' executions. Amidst this madness, Alice bumps into the Cheshire Cat again, who asks her how she is doing. The King of Hearts interrupts their conversation and attempts to bully the Cheshire Cat, who imprudently dismisses the king. The king takes offense and arranges for the Cheshire Cat's execution. But since the cat is now only a head floating in mid-air, no one can agree on how to behead it. Yes, so that's again a hilarious scene that plays out. Cheshire Cat is again really gone poof, just like that, and it is actually floating in mid-air, so no one knows how to behead the cat. And we can see in this game of croquet that the queen and the king, they are always asking for all of the players' execution. Yes, so that is what actually tempers Alice, and she is really furious. Now the Duchess approaches Alice and attempts to befriend her, but It makes Alice really feel uneasy, and the Queen of Hearts chases the Duchess off and tells Alice that she must visit the Mock Turtle to hear his story. The Queen of Hearts sends Alice with the Gryphon as her escort to meet the Mock Turtle, and Alice shares her strange experiences with the turtle and the Gryphon, who listen sympathetically and comment on the strangeness of her adventures. After listening to the Mock Turtle story, they hear an announcement that a trial is about to begin, where Alice is again wanted back into the croquet ground. Now, this is the main scene, the last one, where we can see that Alice is actually one of the witnesses to the trial, and the Knave of Hearts stands trial for stealing the Queen's tarts. The King of Hearts leads the proceedings, and various witnesses approach the stand to give evidence. The Mad Hatter and the cook both give their testimony, but none of it makes any sense. The White Rabbit, acting as a herald, calls Alice to the witness stand. The king goes nowhere with his line of questioning, but takes encouragement when the White Rabbit provides new evidence in the form of letter written by the knave. The letter turns out to be a poem which the king interprets as an admission of guilt on the part of the knave. Now we come to the last part, where Alice believes the note to be a nonsense and protects the king's interpretation. She protests the king's interpretation. That means she does not believe it at all. And the queen becomes furious with Alice and orders her beheading. But Alice grows to a huge size and knocks over the queen's army of playing cards. All of a sudden, Alice finds herself awake on her sister's lap back at the riverbank. She tells her sister about her dream and goes inside for tea as her sister ponders about Alice's adventure. So that's how the story comes to an end. And finally, Alice realizes that all of these weird, bizarre things that were happening to her were actually a dream, right? But the story is imaginative at best. The author has given some vivid description. In each of the chapters, there is something enthralling for the children who are reading the book. And they are really in awe and wonder and mesmerizing of all of the elements that have been included in the story. So not only for children, I would say even for adults, it is the book is quite interesting. And you may also want to grab a copy if you have not done that before. Maybe grab a copy and read the book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Right now, with that story there, do let me know how you found it. And let's move ahead to another synonymous word, which is interpretation, right? So interpretation would have synonyms: explanation, evaluation, and definition, right? So let's move ahead. There is a typo that I can see there. Yes, excuse me for that. And yes, let's move ahead to our next segment, which is the last segment for the day, and it is called Jumbled Words. So, what you need to do here is unjumble the words, and all of the words are related to today's lesson. So, try finding out the correct words, unjumble them, write it in the correct sequence, and try to find the meaningful word, right? So here is the first one for the day. All of these words are from today's episode, as I told you. So can you guess what is this word here? That is correct. Puneet gives me the right answer. It is rabbit. And let's move ahead to the next one that we have. Okay, here it is. What is that? Yes, that's correct. It is the protagonist of our story, Alice, right? And let me also show you some quiz questions here. It's going to be really fun if you can give me all the correct answers. There is the first one. Whose hole did Alice get into? Now that we know the story, can you recollect and tell me which was the hole that Alice got into? Quickly in the chat box. Okay, the rabbit hole. That is correct. Again, thanks for your answers. The white rabbit hole. And here is the next quiz question. What happened to Alice when she drank the potion from the bottle? Okay. the first time that I mentioned to you that she could not fit through that door, what happened then when she drank from the bottle which was marked "Bring me"? Okay, so Arun gives me the correct response. That's right, she shrunk. And yes, that is correct. She shrunk in size. And here is the last question. Where did Alice fall into? Anyone knows this answer? Where did Alice fall into? Okay, no answers coming up. Let me reveal that one for you. She fell into the pool of tears. Do you remember when we spoke about the second chapter, the pool of tears? Again, um and imagination, which is really funny, isn't it? Alice really becoming huge, transforming into a giant size by eating that cake, and that's how her even her tears, a drop of tear, was also so very big and giant that when she started crying, there was a pool of tear which she fell into. Right. So these were the quiz questions. And with that, we come to the end of our episode for today. Let me show you the project work. And I would strongly encourage each one of my viewers to, try and recollect whatever you learned from today's episode, all the essentials, the plot building pointers, and try writing a story just like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, all by yourself. So you just have to whisk up some creativity and imagination. And even if you are going to write a weird and a bizarre story, it is going to really work, because that's how Alice's Adventures in Wonderland were also, right? It was quite weird. We cannot make heads and tails out of it. And no sense at all, but still the story was put together beautifully, right? So be inspired by this book here that we cherry picked for you for this evening, and try writing your own story, maybe a fantasy which will have a lot of creativity and a lot of imagine a lot of things that stem up from your imagination. Yes, so that's the project work that I would definitely want all of my viewers to be doing. And now we come to the end of today's episode. It was really fun bringing out this interesting book to all of my viewers. And for Monday, we would be coming up with another segment of the stand up comedy vertical. And we will be talking about the subtopic alternative comedy. So do stay tuned in with me on Monday as well at 6 p.m. India time. I am Sapna Mahadevan signing out for today. And until the time we meet next, have a nice, relaxed weekend, have a fun time, and keep smiling. Bye bye.